5 months ago, I was sitting in a Manhattan bar with 3 margaritas in my system and 8 years of unsaid words pressing against my chest like something about to break. I was terrified. I was certain I was about to ruin everything. I said it anyway. And today I am sitting on a balcony in Los Angeles watching the sunset with the woman I love, and I have not regretted a single word. But the road between that bar and this balcony, that is the part nobody warns you about. Let me tell you everything. I am not the kind of person who takes risks. I am the kind of person who reads the terms and conditions, who checks the weather before leaving the house, who orders the same thing at every restaurant because I already know I like it and I see absolutely no reason to gamble on something new. I am careful. I am calculated. I am, by every definition of the word, a coward. And for 8 years, that cowardice kept me warm at night, because as long as I never said the words out loud, I never had to find out what would happen if she didn't feel the same way. Her name is Isabel, and this is the story of the night I finally stopped being afraid of her. Let me take you back. Not to that night, not yet. Because if you're going to understand why that night nearly destroyed me, you need to understand where it all began. 8 years ago, I was a nervous, over-caffeinated freshman walking into a college chemistry lab at NYU, already convinced I was going to fail the class. The room smelled like rubber gloves and something vaguely chemical that made my nose itch. Students were pairing up at lab benches, and I was standing by the door like an idiot, holding my textbook against my chest like it was a shield, scanning the room for literally any face that looked friendly. And then I heard a crash. Not a small crash. A spectacular, full volume. Everyone in the room turned to look crash. A stool had toppled. A tray of glass beakers was teetering dangerously on the edge of a lab bench. And standing right in the middle of the chaos, arms outstretched, eyes wide, somehow managing to catch 3 beakers before they hit the floor, was this girl. She had dark curly hair pulled into the most chaotic bun I had ever seen. She was wearing a bright yellow sweater that had absolutely no business being in a chemistry lab. And when she looked up and realized the entire class was staring at her, she didn't shrink. She didn't turn red and look at the floor the way I would have. She grinned, held up the 3 beakers like trophies, and said, loudly and completely without shame, "Nobody panic. I am a professional." The class laughed. The professor pinched the bridge of his nose. And I was already walking toward her before I even realized my feet were moving. I sat down beside her. She looked at me sideways and said, "Fair warning. I have no idea what I'm doing." I said, "Neither do I." She said, "Perfect. We'll figure it out together." Her name was Isabel Reyes. And just like that, without any planning or logic or careful calculation on my part, she became my person. 8 years. I want you to really feel that number. 8 years of shared everything. Late-night study sessions that turned into 3 a.m. conversations about life and fear and what we actually wanted to be when we grew up. 8 years of inside jokes that nobody else understood. Of karaoke nights where we sounded absolutely terrible and didn't care even a little bit. Of showing up at each other's doors with food when the world felt like too much. Of being the first phone call, always in the good moments and the devastating ones. She was there when I got my first real job. I was there when her father got sick. She held my hand through 2 heartbreaks. I held hers through 1. We built a friendship that felt, and I mean this, like coming home. Like the one relationship in my life that had no conditions attached to it. No performance required. No version of myself I needed to maintain. With Isabel, I was just Ava. And Ava was always enough. Which is exactly why what I was feeling for her absolutely terrified me.
I don't know exactly when it changed.
That's the honest answer, and I know it's frustrating, but I can't give you a specific date or a single moment and say, there. That's when it happened. It was gradual. The way the seasons change. You don't notice it day by day, and then one morning you step outside, and the air is completely different, and you think, when did that happen? Maybe it was the night of my 23rd birthday, when she showed up at my apartment at midnight with a chocolate cake she had attempted to bake herself, and it was lopsided and slightly burned on one side, and she stood in my doorway holding it with both hands, so proud of herself, with a smear of chocolate on her cheek she didn't know was there. And I looked at her and felt something shift in my chest so hard it almost knocked the breath out of me.
Maybe it was earlier than that.
I genuinely don't know. What I do know is that by the time I fully admitted it to myself, it was already too late to unfeel it. The love was already everywhere. In every text she sent me. In every time she laughed so hard, she had to grab my arm to stay upright. In the way she said my name, just Ava, like it was the most natural word in the world. I was in love with my best friend. Completely, helplessly, embarrassingly in love with her. And I was convinced, absolutely convinced, that telling her would end everything.
So I did what I do best.
I said nothing. I smiled. I showed up. I was the best friend I knew how to be. And I buried it. March 14th, 2025. The anniversary of the day we met. We had celebrated it every single year since freshman year. We called it our friendiversary, which Isabel came up with, and I pretended to find ridiculous while secretly loving it completely. The plan was simple. O'Malley's Bar, our favorite spot in the West Village. Margaritas, always margaritas, it was tradition. Loud music. Bad dancing. The usual. I had been telling myself for 2 weeks that tonight would be normal. That I would go, I would laugh, I would drink my margarita, and I would come home and go to sleep and continue doing what I had been doing for years, which was loving her from a safe and carefully maintained distance. That was the plan. But here is what I didn't account for. Margaritas at O'Malley's were dangerously good. And I was dangerously emotional. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at our usual table near the back, the one with the sticky menu and the wobbly chair she always claimed first as a joke. She was wearing a green dress that made her eyes look impossibly bright, and she was already grinning when she saw me walk in, that full, unguarded grin that she only gave to people she genuinely loved. She loves you, I told myself.
Just not like that.
Remember that. Not like that. 8 years, she announced when I reached the table, throwing her arms around me before I had even fully sat down. She smelled like her perfume, something warm and floral that I had never been able to name, but would recognize anywhere. Can you believe it? 8 years, and you still haven't gotten sick of me. Don't push it, I said, and she laughed, and I sat down, and I thought, okay, I'm fine. This is fine.
It was not fine.
The first margarita went down fast, the way they always did. The second one followed. The music was loud. The bar was filling up with the Friday night crowd. Isabel was talking. She was telling me about a design project she had been working on, something that had her more excited than I had seen her in months, her hands moving the way they always did when she was passionate about something. I was watching her hands. I was watching her face. I was watching the way the light from the bar caught her eyes when she smiled. And somewhere between the second and third margarita, something inside me just broke open. I don't have a more precise way to describe it. It was like a dam I had spent years reinforcing just quietly gave way. And the water was already moving before I realized the wall was gone. She asked me something, I don't even remember what it was, and I didn't answer. I just sat there, looking at her, feeling the full weight of 8 years pressing down on my chest.
Ava.
She tilted her head.
Hey.
Where did you go? Isabel, I said. And the way I said her name must have been different. Something in my voice must have given it away, because she stopped.
Completely.
The smile on her face didn't disappear, but it shifted into something more careful, more attentive. Yeah, she said softly.
I looked down at my glass.
I looked back up at her. My heart was going so fast, I was genuinely concerned. I have to tell you something, I said. And I need you to let me finish before you say anything. Because if you interrupt me, I will lose my nerve and I will never say it, and I have been not saying it for a very long time. She put her glass down. She folded her hands on the table. She looked at me with those eyes, those full, focused, completely present eyes, and she said, "Okay, I'm listening." I took a breath. "I am in love with you," I said. "I have been in love with you for a long time. I don't know exactly when it started, and I know that probably doesn't matter. What matters is that it's real, and it's not going away, and I have spent years pretending it wasn't there because I was terrified of losing you." My voice cracked on the last word. I pushed through it. "I'm not telling you this because I expect anything. I'm telling you because it is our 8th anniversary, and you are my favorite person in the world, and I am so tired of carrying this alone." I exhaled. That's it. That's all of it. The silence that followed was the longest of my entire life. She was still looking at me. Her expression was unreadable in a way that made my stomach drop completely. I actually prepared myself in real time for the gentle, careful rejection. The "Ava, I love you, but not like that." The "you are so important to me, and I don't want this to change things." And then she reached across the table, and she took my hand. Not a quick, reassuring squeeze. She took my hand the way you take something precious, deliberate, careful, both of hers wrapping around mine. "I love you too," she said. 3 words. Just 3 words. But the way she said them, quiet and certain, like she had been holding them for a long time herself, made my entire chest collapse. "Isabel." "I mean it," she said. "I have loved you for a long time, Ava. Longer than I've let myself admit." The relief that moved through me in that moment was so enormous, it was almost painful. 8 years of silence. 8 years of careful distance. And here she was right here, holding my hand, saying the words I had given up hoping to hear. For approximately 30 seconds, it was the most perfect moment of my life. And then she said, "But there's something I need to tell you too." Her voice had changed. Something in it was careful now. Gentle in the way that people are gentle when they are about to say something hard. My joy, that enormous flooding relief, began to slow, like a song fading out. "What?" I said. She didn't let go of my hand, but she looked down for just a moment before meeting my eyes again. "I've been seeing someone," she said, "for about 4 months. His name is Daniel." The bar kept going around us. Music, laughter, the clink of glasses. The world completely indifferent to the fact that mine had just tilted on its axis. "Okay," I said, because it was the only word I could find. "I think I might have feelings for him too," she said. "Real ones. And I know how that sounds right now, and I'm sorry, Ava. I'm not trying to hurt you. I can't lie to you. Not tonight. Not after what you just said to me." I stared at her. My hand was still in hers. I hadn't pulled it away. "I'm not sure I could have. He knows about you," she continued. "He's always known how important you are to me. And when I finally admitted to him that I thought I might have feelings for you, he didn't get angry. He told me to be honest." "He told you to be honest." I repeated slowly. "Yes." I laughed. It came out strange, not quite a real laugh. "Of course he did. Ava." "I'm not angry," I said. And the strangest part was I meant it. I was something, but angry wasn't quite the right word for it. It was more like standing in a room where all the furniture had been moved, familiar and disorienting at the same time. I looked at her, this woman who had just told me she loved me and that she loved someone else in the same breath, and I felt everything at once. Joy and grief and jealousy and tenderness all tangled together so tightly I couldn't separate them. "What do we do?" I asked. She looked at me for a long moment, and then she said very quietly, "I don't know, but I don't want to figure it out without you." Outside, New York City kept moving, loud and relentless and indifferent, the way it always was. But inside O'Malley's bar, at a sticky table near the back, two women sat with their hands intertwined, both of them brave, both of them terrified, both of them standing right at the edge of something they couldn't yet name. And neither of them let go. Here is something nobody tells you about getting what you want. Sometimes it arrives wrapped in something complicated, something messy and uncomfortable, and nothing like the clean, simple version you imagined in your head at 2 a.m. when you were lying in the dark rehearsing how it would feel. I had imagined the confession 100 times, maybe more. I had played out every version of it. The rejection, the awkward silence, the careful friendship that would never quite recover. I had prepared for all of those. What I had not prepared for was this. Sitting in the back of a cab on the way home from O'Malley's, the city lights sliding past the window in long golden streaks, my hand still warm from where she had held it, and my chest feeling like someone had reached inside and rearranged everything without asking. She loved me. She had said it.
Clearly.
Deliberately. The way you say something you have been carrying for a long time and are finally setting down. She loved me, and she also loved someone else. And I had absolutely no idea what to do with either of those things. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on top of my covers fully dressed until almost 4 a.m., staring at the ceiling, replaying the evening on a loop. Her face when I said the words. The way her hands closed around mine. The shift in her voice when she said Daniel's name. Daniel. I had heard her mention him before. Casually, the way you mention someone who exists comfortably at the edges of your life. Daniel and I tried that new restaurant. Daniel fixed my laptop finally. Small mentions. Nothing that had ever registered as significant. I had not been paying attention. That was my fault. I had been so focused on hiding my own feelings that I had completely missed the fact that her heart had been quietly moving in directions of its own. At 4:17 a.m., my phone lit up on the nightstand. "Isabel, are you awake?" I stared at it for a full 10 seconds. "Ava, unfortunately, yes." "Isabel, me too. I keep thinking about tonight." "Ava, same." A pause. 3 dots appearing and disappearing twice before her message finally came through. "Isabel, I meant everything I said. I need you to know that. All of it." I read that message 4 times. And then I typed back the most honest thing I could manage at 4 a.m. with my heart in pieces on the ceiling above me. "Ava, I know. I meant everything I said too. I just need a little time to figure out how to hold all of this. Isabel, take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." I put the phone down, pressed my palms over my eyes. She was not going anywhere. Neither was Daniel. And somehow, impossibly, I was going to have to find a way to live inside that reality until something shifted. 3 days passed. We texted. We talked on the phone once, briefly, carefully, like two people navigating a room full of things they didn't want to knock over. We did not see each other in person. I think we both needed the small mercy of distance while we sorted through our own thoughts. On the 4th day, Tessa called me. Tessa had been our third for almost as long as Isabel and I had been a pair. She had entered our lives sophomore year, sat down at our lunch table uninvited, announced that she had been watching us for 2 weeks, and decided we seemed like the most interesting people in the dining hall, and simply never left. She was loud and perceptive and completely immune to awkwardness in a way that I had always envied. She was also, as it turned out, already fully informed. Isabel told me, she said, before I had even finished saying hello. I closed my eyes. Of course she did. Don't be annoyed. She needed to tell someone, and she knew I wouldn't make it weird. A pause. I am, however, absolutely going to make it a little weird. Just for a moment. Tessa. Ava. Her voice dropped into something that was trying very hard to be serious. Are you telling me that you and Isabel have been walking around for years, in love with each other, and neither of you said a single word? That is correct. While I was right there, watching, completely oblivious. Also correct. She made a sound that was somewhere between a laugh and genuine outrage. This is literally a romantic comedy. This is the plot of every romantic comedy. I cannot believe I had a front row seat to this for years, and I didn't even realize it. Despite everything, despite the sleepless nights and the complicated feelings and the general mess of the situation, I laughed. A real one. The first real laugh I had managed in 4 days. It gets more complicated, I said. Oh, I know, Tessa said cheerfully. Daniel. Isabel filled me in. Truly, the chaos does not stop with you too. Another pause, and then her voice shifted, still warm, but more grounded. How are you actually doing, Ava? I leaned back against my kitchen counter. Outside my window, the city hummed its constant hum. Honestly, I said, I feel like I cracked open a door I had kept shut for 8 years and found out the room behind it is a lot more complicated than I expected. Yeah, Tessa said quietly. That tracks. She let the silence sit for a moment before she said, Can I tell you something honest? Please. I have watched you love that woman from a distance for a long time. And I have watched her light up differently around you than she does around anyone else, including Daniel, for what it's worth.
She paused.
I'm not telling you what to do, but I don't think you should walk away from this just because it's messy. The best things usually are. I didn't say anything for a moment. When did you get wise? I finally said, I've always been wise, Tessa said, and the grin was audible in her voice. You two have just been too busy gazing at each other to notice. On the 5th day, Isabel came over. She showed up at my door at 7 in the evening with 2 containers of the Thai food from the place around the corner from her apartment, my order, which she knew by heart, and she stood in my doorway and looked at me with those careful, searching eyes and said, I thought we should probably stop texting and actually talk. Yeah, I said. Come in. We sat on my living room floor the way we always had, side by side, backs against the couch, food containers open between us.
For a few minutes we just ate.
The old silence of people who are comfortable enough together to not need to fill every moment. And then she said, Tell me what you're feeling. All of it. Don't edit it. I put down my fork, looked at my hands. I'm happy, I said slowly, because you said you love me. And I have wanted to hear that for so long that even now, in the middle of all this, it still does something to me.
I paused.
And I'm scared, because I don't know what this is yet or what it becomes. And I stopped. And she prompted. And I'm jealous, I admitted, of Daniel, which feels unfair because I have no right to be. You were with him before any of this. He didn't do anything wrong. She nodded slowly. She wasn't looking away from me. It's not unfair, she said. It makes sense. She turned her container of food slowly in her hands. Can I tell you what I've been feeling? Yes.
Torn. she said simply.
Completely torn. I care about Daniel. He is a good man, and he has been nothing but kind to me. And she exhaled. And I've been in love with you for longer than I have been honest with myself about it. And I hate that those two things are happening at the same time. I hate that someone is going to get hurt no matter what I do. The room was very quiet. What does Daniel say? I asked carefully. She was quiet for a moment. He says he loves me. He also says she stopped. Started again. He says that loving someone means wanting them to be honest, and that he would rather know the truth than have me stay with him while part of my heart is somewhere else. Something about that, about the simple, painful generosity of it, made my throat tighten. He sounds like a good person, I said. He is, she said softly. That's what makes it so hard. We sat with that for a while. The city outside doing its thing. The two of us inside doing ours. And then, carefully, she reached over and took my hand again. The same way she had at O'Malley's. Deliberate. Gentle. I'm not asking you to wait, she said. I'm not asking you to be patient while I figure this out. That's not fair to you, Isabel. But I am asking you, she continued, to not give up on this. On us. Whatever this is. She looked at me. Can you do that? I looked at her hand in mine. At this woman who had been my home for 8 years. Who had caught me every time I fell and never once asked me to be anything other than exactly what I was. Yeah, I said quietly. I can do that. The conversation with Daniel happened the following week. Isabel told me about it afterward, sitting cross-legged on my couch, her voice soft and her eyes tired in the way they get when she has been crying and is trying not to show it. He had been calm. That was the word she used.
Calm.
Not cold, not angry calm. The kind of calm that costs something. He had told her that he had known, somewhere underneath everything, that something was unresolved in her. That he had seen the way she talked about me, not with the casual warmth of friendship, but with something quieter and deeper that he hadn't wanted to name, because naming it would mean having to do something about it. He had told her that he loved her enough to let her go toward something true. And then, because he was apparently that kind of man, he had asked only one thing, that she be happy. That whatever happened next, she'd choose the thing that made her genuinely, fully happy. Isabel told me all of this in a quiet voice with her chin tucked down, and when she finished, she just sat there for a moment in the particular silence of someone who's just closed a door that cannot be reopened. I moved closer to her on the couch. I didn't say anything. I just put my arm around her and let her lean into me, and she did. She leaned in completely, her head against my shoulder, and exhaled a long, tired breath. Are you okay? I asked. I will be, she said. I just need a minute. Take all the minutes you need, I said. And I felt her almost smile against my shoulder. We didn't make any announcements. There was no dramatic declaration, no moment where we stood up and told the world what we were to each other. It was quieter than that, more gradual, like the beginning of us had always been, something that grew so naturally you almost missed it happening. We started spending more time together. Not the frantic, emotionally loaded time of those first 2 weeks, but something easier. Cooking dinner in her apartment on Tuesday evenings. Walking through Central Park on Sunday mornings when the city was still half asleep and the light was soft and golden and everything felt possible. Sitting side by side on my couch watching terrible reality television and arguing about it with more passion than either of us gave to actual serious topics. It felt, and I know how simple this sounds, it felt like us. Just us. Finally, without the weight of the unsaid thing between us. Like a song we had both known the melody to for years, finally playing with all the notes. Tessa, for her part, was insufferable about it in the most loving way possible. "I just want to say," she announced one evening, sitting across from us at our usual table at O'Malley's, watching Isabel and me with the satisfaction of someone who has been proven spectacularly right, "that I called this. Years ago. In my heart. I called it." "You told me 2 weeks ago you had no idea," I said. "I knew in my heart," Tessa said firmly. "My brain just hadn't caught up yet." Isabel laughed, that full, unguarded laugh, and reached under the table and found my hand, and I let her take it, and Tessa pointed at us like she had just won something. "See," she said triumphantly. "Beautiful. Finally." And then, just when I thought the complicated part was behind us, life decided we weren't quite done yet. Isabel called me on a Thursday evening in late April, and I knew immediately from the first sound of her voice that something had shifted. "I need to tell you something," she said, "and I need you to hear me out before you react." My stomach dropped in a way that was becoming entirely too familiar. "Okay," I said carefully. "I got offered a job," she said. "A design position. At a firm in Los Angeles." The silence on my end must have said everything, because she rushed forward. "It's the kind of opportunity one have been working toward for years, Ava. The kind of firm I used to look up on the internet at 2 a.m. when I was still in school and think, someday, maybe someday." "Los Angeles," I said. "Los Angeles," she confirmed. I sat down on my kitchen floor. I'm not sure why the floor specifically, but it felt necessary. "When?" I asked. "They want an answer by the end of the month. Start date would be June."
June.
That was 6 weeks away. "Isabel." "I know," she said quickly. "I know what you're thinking. And I'm not just going to disappear, Ava. I'm not going to let this." "I know you're not," I said. And I did know that. That wasn't what was hollowing me out. What was hollowing me out was simpler and more selfish than that. She was going to leave, and I was going to be here. And we had only just found this thing between us, this real, precious, terrifying thing. And now, "I have something to ask you," she said. Her voice had gone very quiet. "And I need you to know that there is no pressure. Whatever you say, I will understand." "I mean that." "What is it?" I said.
A breath.
"Then, come with me." 2 seconds of complete silence. "Come with me to Los Angeles," she said. "I know it's enormous. I know it's terrifying. But Ava, I have thought about this and I cannot imagine doing it without you.
Not now.
Not after everything." I looked around my kitchen, at the small, expensive, exhausting life I had built in this city. The job that paid well and drained me, the apartment that cost too much and never quite felt like mine. The routine I had constructed so carefully around a life that, if I was really honest, I had never fully loved. "You're asking me to leave New York?" I said. "I'm asking you to come home with me," she said, "wherever that ends up being." I didn't answer her that night. I walked through the city instead. That's what I do when I need to think. I walk. I put on my coat, and I went out into the April night, and I walked for almost 2 hours. Down through the village, past O'Malley's. I stopped for a moment outside, looked through the window at our usual table in the back, and then kept walking. I thought about New York, about everything I had told myself I loved about it. And then I thought about whether I actually loved it, or whether I had simply gotten so used to it that I had mistaken familiarity for belonging. I thought about my job, my apartment, my carefully maintained, carefully controlled, carefully managed life. And then I thought about Isabel, about that yellow sweater in a chemistry lab 8 years ago, about a lopsided birthday cake with chocolate on her cheek, about a hand reaching across a bar table and holding mine like something precious, about the way she had said come home with me like home was not a place at all, like it was a person. I took out my phone. I typed one sentence. Ava, yes. Her reply came in less than 30 seconds. Isabel, yeah? Ava, yeah. Let's go to Los Angeles. 3 dots. Then, Isabel, I love you. Standing on a sidewalk in Manhattan at 11 p.m., surrounded by strangers, I smiled so wide it probably looked ridiculous. Ava, I love you too. Now let me come home so we can figure out how to pack up our entire lives in 6 weeks. Isabel, I'll make coffee. Ava, make it strong. By June, we were gone. Silver Lake, Los Angeles. A small apartment with big windows and a balcony that caught the late afternoon light in a way that made everything look like it was glowing from the inside. Isabel started her new job. I started building something of my own, freelance work, content creation, the slow and uncertain and deeply satisfying business of making something from scratch. We built a routine. Coffee in the mornings on that balcony. The California sun already warm by 8 a.m. Cooking dinner together in the evenings, badly, enthusiastically, with a lot of laughter and occasional smoke alarms. Exploring the city on weekends, finding our places the way you do, when somewhere new slowly starts to feel like yours. 5 months after a nervous, over-caffeinated woman sat at a sticky table in a Manhattan bar and decided she was finally done being afraid, we sat on that balcony as the sun went down over the Los Angeles skyline, painting everything amber and rose and gold. Isabel had her feet tucked under her. She was leaning into me the way she always did now, naturally, without thinking, the way you lean into something solid.
Hey, she said.
Hey, I said. Are you happy? I looked at her, at this woman who had started as a crash and a grin and a yellow sweater in a chemistry lab, who had been my best friend and my secret and my greatest fear and my greatest courage all at once. Yeah, I said. I really am. She smiled, turned back to the sunset, and I sat there in that golden light, thinking about the version of me who had stood in a bathroom mirror 8 months ago and whispered you can do this while her hands wouldn't stop shaking. And I thought, quietly and with complete sincerity, you did it. You really did it. The confession that once terrified me had not destroyed anything. It had built everything. And as the sun finished setting over our new city, our city, hers and mine, I understood something I had spent 8 years being too afraid to believe. The most important things in life are almost always on the other side of the most terrifying sentence you will ever say. All you have to do is say it. That is the only thing I know for certain. And I needed you to know it too. 5 months ago, I told you I was sitting on a balcony in Los Angeles with no regrets. Now you know how I got here. Every messy, terrifying, beautiful step of it. And if there is one thing I want you to carry with you when you close this video, it is this. Your story is not over. Whatever you are holding right now, whatever you are too afraid to say, the next chapter is still unwritten. Write it brave. If Love Beyond Rules is new to you, hit subscribe and stay with us. We tell stories here that remind you what love really looks like when it is honest and real and human. Share this video if it moved you. Leave a comment and tell me your story. I am listening, and I will see you in the next one.